Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. This is the first in a series of conversations, I think. I'm Karen Cuthrell. I am the owner of the Feelings Company, and this is a Feeling Friends in the Community event. The purpose of the conversation is we've got some unrest going on, and the Feelings Company, what we do, we grow children socially and emotionally stronger. And what we found that we need to do, grow adults socially and emotionally stronger as well. And what a beautiful way to do it, coming together on a Zoom where we can hear the questions, we can answer the questions about racism, and we can move forward as adults. I'd like to say hey to Sarah for helping me orchestrate this. It was a great idea because when she asked me about conversations, just as I go to Danny when I need an accountant, I go to Dr. Card when I need a doctor, I go to Nate when I need an attorney when he's around. I needed to go to an expert because this is my field of expertise. So I went to the expert, the person that I know, the person that has done some wonderful transformational work already in Winston-Salem. She lives in DC, but she's been down here 3 times with 3 different organizations to do transformational work. And she happens to be my executive coach as well. And that's Vanilla. Now, let Vanilla raise your hand. Vanilla, raise your hand. She's frozen.
Vanilla is frozen.
Let's figure out why Vanilla's frozen. Everybody wave to Vanilla. Wave to Vanilla. Hi, Vanilla. This is Winston-Salem, DC. Hi, Vanilla. Let me tell you about Vanilla Jackson. She's a therapist, she's an executive coach, and she's an advisor to companies and to people. And so she has all the degrees that are needed to be sitting at the table for this conversation. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't have gone to anybody else. She's worked in the spirituality field, and in that field, in New York, Carnegie Hall Corporation of New York was the sponsor of Vanilla. She works with community groups and government. She is an executive coach, and when I say an executive coach, we're all executives. We're all executives at some point in our lives. She's an executive coach, and for me, she is the grounder of what I do, of my work in the Feeling Friend. She's my grounder. So with that in mind, we're going to have a little conversation today. We're going to have some question and answers, and we're going to have some closing thoughts. Everybody ready? Everybody ready? Great. So Vanilla, here we go. What's really going on today?
Yes.
Can you hear me? What's going on today?
I can hear you now. I don't know if it's
me?
I don't know if it's on my end. I don't know if it's on my end, but I'm having a delay. Is anyone having a delay?
No. Can you hear me now?
I hear you though.
Okay, so there'll be a little delay. And that's technology. We're living in COVID. Just think about what's happening in COVID-19, things we weren't prepared for. Police brutality, murders, hopelessness, stress, anger, unemployment, restaurants closing, businesses closing, depression, and education disorder. And those are things that I'm really focused on. And we're living in hate. We're a melting pot of issues right now, Vanilla. So there was a song back a long time ago, sung by Marvin Gaye, that said, "What's going on?" So I'll ask you, Vanilla, what's going on?
So it seems that Vanilla is having a few technical difficulties, and I believe she's going to fix them.
Okay.
So would you like to see how everybody's doing? I ask a question to get the conversation started to the group.
I will. We always do a feelings check-in with the Feeling Friends. And so let's do a feelings check-in. I am feeling blank because. So Mendez, can you unmute everybody?
They'll have to unmute their own self.
Unmute yourself. When I call your name, unmute yourselves. I am feeling blank because, and then give your reason. Let's start with Mona up here. Mona?
I am feeling frustrated because things are not changing to the pace that I would like them to see. I've been a professional for 40 years and not a whole lot has changed.
Thank you. Sylvia, I am feeling blank because.
I'm angry and disappointed
Because.
because I would have thought this country would have been further along than what I'm seeing and hearing on television and reading and different things like that. I actually listening on a church activity yesterday, and it always feels like we as Black people have to always explain to white people what's going on. And I can't believe we're so far, along in this country and other things that we're not honest, or I don't feel people are really as honest as they could be about their feelings. Why do Black people always have to explain it to people?
Got it.
They know what's happening.
Got it.
It frustrates me.
So you're angry, disappointed, and frustrated. Dr. Hargrave, what are you feeling?
I am feeling numb because this is all a lot to process. Dealing with racial trauma on top of other, life traumas is just too much for me right now. And my therapist is on vacation this week.
Okay, so maybe this would support you a little bit today.
Yes.
So let's keep it going just one more time, and we'll get back to everybody. If I haven't called you, because we want to make sure that we get through the process. Sarah, what are you feeling?
I'm feeling uneasy for a lot of reasons. I am in the process of understanding my complicity in white supremacy and systemic racism, and I'm also, once you do that, you have no choice but to speak out and enroll other people in your community to get on board with you, and those conversations are scary because you have information and insight that they might not get yet. And so I've just been having a lot of challenging conversations in my networks, and it's hard to know how to navigate it. So I just in general, the past several days, I've just felt uneasy as a mixture of confusion and frustration and outrage, and yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow. Okay, does anyone else want to tell how they're feeling? Raise your hand. Anybody?
Karen, you didn't call me, but I'm going to go ahead and talk because you know how I do.
Okay.
I am a mix of hopeful and hopeless. I find that I'm hopeful because I'm seeing a lot of people who I think before have not entered these conversations with a pure heart. I'm seeing them enter the conversations. I'm seeing, steps towards what could be a positive thing at the end of all of this, or towards the end of all of this. But also hopeless because I think I have a mindset where I see a lot of times where history repeats itself. And I keep saying this over and over again, nothing that we're seeing is new. I think those who are on the call that have more wisdom than me and are wiser than me, they can definitely tell me everything that I'm seeing. This has happened in lifetimes before. And we saw the result of that. Like we're not living in a new America now. And I don't know that I have too much hope that, 5 years from now, what happened in 2020 is going to create a new tomorrow. I think it seems to be a very popular thing for people and organizations to say that they're taking steps towards this, and some actually are, putting their money where their mouth is. And I'm a huge fan of that because money speaks volumes. But I still don't have the full faith that it's real and it's true. And I think that's where I am, just kind of watching it process you know, hopeful and hopeless at the same time.
Hopeful and hopeless. And with that, Magdalene, I will go back to Vanilla. Are you ready, Vanilla?
Absolutely ready.
Oh, wonderful. So I'm going to ask you again. Marvin Gaye said, what's going on? What's going on?
So let me start out by, first of all, thanking you for the opportunity to share today and to hear and respect and regard where everybody is and their particular issues. And I admire what bravery it takes to take on hosting a conversation of this sensitivity. So I want to get that out there first. Here's what I want to say about what's going on. Karen, that you are asking a question about that was asked by Marvin Gaye in a landmark production that he did. And I think everybody knows about Marvin Gaye, and that what's going on has passed the test of time. That was done in 1971. 1971. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but 1971, this is what, 2020.
Wait, 71, 81, 91, math, 2001, 2011, 49 years.
Well, 49 years. Now that is a long time. And you know, Magdalene was saying that in her lifetime, she's seen things happen repetitively and they don't seem to change. But I'm gonna tell you something about 49 years. I've been lying about being 49 years old for almost 49 years now. So in a way, it is a long time. And in another sense, it's not a long time. But for all those years, what was Marvin Gaye talking about? Marvin Gaye was talking about exactly what we're talking about now. A shooting, an unarmed person, a violent shooting by a police officer. That inspired him to ask that question, what's going on? And he did something in that song that I think some of us are probably aware of if we listen to it. But he called out to his mother and his father to clarify what was going on for him. Father, father, mother, mother. The same as we're hearing now with this young man, George Floyd, who has something going on. So what I see as different, Magdalene, in this time versus other times, is that perceptions are shifting rapidly, much more rapidly than they did when in 1971 or in 1968 and times before. You know, even Dr. King wrote a treatise, wrote a wonderful book, Why We Can't Wait. And he addressed how long it takes for the issues of people to be resolved and attended to by society. So today, we in this conversation, I hope that some of the concerns that people have and you know, some of the fears and anguish and emotional issues that are going on, we can kind of calm down. Just us on this call today has an opportunity to create another possibility. So let's let that be what's going on.
I know that's right. I know that's right. So Vanilla and I, when I said, will you come and help me? She said yes. And so we thought about questions that we thought that the community would want to talk about. And then I opened that box that said, if you have any questions, email Sarah. Well, some questions came to Sarah and then some came to me. So we threw up the cards, we threw up our conversation. And now we just got new questions and we hope that we can answer the questions right now. And so Vanilla, I've received numerous apologies letters. What am I to do with these letters?
So here's the thing. Apologies are part of a loop of a conversation that I call it effective communication. It's the kind of conversation that we want to have, or that has to be had, or we are having, where we say something out, person-to-person communication or body language communication. Without communicating effectively, whether on this issue or some issue that preceded our dynamic in our lives. Last month, for instance, way before this shooting occurred, what is our communication styles, people? Now, communication is how we express who we are. Communication is how we express how we see the world. Communication is how we express our perceptions and our worldviews. So if our worldview says, okay, when somebody says something to me, I am connected enough and resourceful enough and imaginative enough and concerned enough that I will give them something back in return. That's how the loop keeps going. That's the recycling. That's called reciprocity. If that is not a value of mine, then I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go off into some area that maybe I have used before with people when they communicate something to me. Maybe I have some feelings inside of me where I resent somebody apologizing to me. Now, I've been in conversations with people right here in my area who have received emails. They're getting emails all day and all night where people are apologizing. What I think folk are doing is this complex dynamic called acknowledging. That they're acknowledging, you know what? I'm seeing something now that I didn't see before. Or I'm seeing something now that I didn't want to see before. So now I want to own up to it, and I'm going to take it. I will bring it to you because you're the kind of person I know who can receive it well and do something with it. They may not bring it to somebody who they know has an angst with society like they might have, or who's afraid. So what do we do with our apologies? What did we do with our apologies 20 days ago? Do we receive them and accept them? Sure. So why not now? That's something we have to examine for our own selves. My position on it personally is real simple. You apologize to me, I accept it. That doesn't mean that I have to accept you. That means I accept your apology.
Well, I thank you for that. And so you'll realize Vanilla says real talk. If I would not have called Vanilla to this conversation unless she knew she was gonna give us real talk. And so thank you, Vanilla, for that. I have some apologies to accept because that was one that came to me. And so when the question came to me, I have to look at inner me as well and what's happening with inner me. So the next one is George Floyd's murder for me, is the hardest video I've ever had to watch. But I was in a conversation in a Bible study last night where someone said that their neighbor watched the video, but she was more concerned about the target burning down instead of the death of an African-American male. She didn't handle it with her right there, but there's a term out there, white fragility. What is white fragility? And what is the importance of understanding and being able to sit in your pain and discomfort when it comes to white fragility? And how should white fragility be handled? How do we handle white fragility? And how do we just handle this whole emotions piece right now?
Right. Yeah. You know, Karen, I want to say this about those questions that came in last night.
Uh-huh.
When I looked at those questions, I said, oh, no, they're not asking questions like this. People ask the most well-considered, well-thought-out questions. Those questions hit my heart. Mm-hmm. And they reveal to me that people are thinking, people are taking time to sit down and think about what's going on and who they are in the midst of that. Just listening to some of the sharing that, you know, happened while I was figuring out how to get this technology corrected. It is, we are now in the midst of not a new normal, but a new reality. There is a normal that we will never get back. And I'm so happy for that. I'm so relieved I could scream and holler. So when it comes to things like concepts like fragility, that's an old concept. That's a concept that, you know, that justified inaction. You know, Bill Maher has something on his show called New Rules. He has those new rules because they are old rules. There's some old rules from the 1800s that we don't even follow anymore. Jim Crow rules that we don't follow anymore. And white fragility is one of those rules. The reason I have transformational thinking training is so that we can start creating another way of dealing with our issues in life. Just transformation talks about how do we take what was and convert it into something else? How do we create something new? So when I think about white fragility, that's not even accurate. White people are not fragile. I'm surprised that that concept has even gotten this far in the lexicon. How can you be a fragile group and rule Western civilization? What is that contradiction about? That is somebody's thesis on how do we justify our inaction and our tone deafness. And what I got from those questions was just the opposite of that. People were saying, oh no, I know I have a role in this. What do I do about that? So what I say about white fragility is, don't insult. You have a whole movement called Me Too that is made up primarily of white women in America. It gives us great hope. It has helped to cancel out some of the negativity in this culture and create something new. That's not fragile. That's bold. That's courageous. That's inspiring. That's not fragile.
So when we look at that, Vanilla, and how do we change our thinking about that? Because as Sylvia was saying, she's tired of explaining. What do we do since there is no fragility? What do we do? How do we hold the conversations that are not emotion charged, but are really fact charged? How do we hold those conversations?
Yeah, so we have to tell the truth. It's something called personal responsibility. I built the majority of my career on personal responsibility training because we have to be responsible. We have to be responsible for who we are and how we are in society. Somebody also submitted a question around, it had to do with, radical accountability. Radical accountability. I remember back in the 60s, man, you couldn't be called, a radical was a negative concept. You know, if you were a radical, you were a militant. And now we have something in business called radical accountability. And you as businessmen and women, radical accountability is what we are requiring in this society moving forward as a reality, not as a new normal. Radical accountability says, I will do what I say I will do. I will do what I say I will do, and I will do it when I say I will do it. And I will do it how I say I will do it. And I won't compromise on that. That is where we are now. That is what we have been asking for, and that is what we have to say to other people. We are not in a position where
Hello?
Well, it seems like Vanilla's still having some technological issues.
So I'll go back to how you're feeling, and I will come back, write that down. We're not in a position. So
Write down radical responsibility as well. That was amazing.
okay, radical responsibility. Got it. I would like to ask, Alan, how you feeling?
Don't hate me when you hear that I feel energized, and I'll tell you why I feel energized.
Okay.
I'm energized because there's an opportunity for people and organizations to move from statements of understanding to true action for change. I think I want to invite everyone to look at the last two newsletters from Hustle that speak to this being a process. It's not just about an incident. It's not just about how 1 or 5 people feel. It's about true change of systems that perpetuate negative stuff that people would agree the negative stuff needs to go. But so I go back to saying I'm energized because I think we're at a place where a lot of people who might not otherwise be listening are listening, and a lot of people who might otherwise not feel the need to change something about themselves and the institutions with which they're involved are really willing to do something. That's my hope.
Thank you. Marvin Fullwood, how are you feeling?
I am feeling happy. I'm ecstatic, but I'm also sad. I'm happy and I'm ecstatic because we're actually able to witness some changes that are occurring. Also, we're also experiencing some things that have not changed. I'm sad and I'm kind of scared as well because I'm a coach and I do not want my younger athletes, whether they're Black or white, to be afraid to express themselves because they're afraid to express themselves within the school system and they feel like they'll be shunned upon. I'm also afraid for them to actually go through these type of incidents that's taking place because it could have been them that was running. It could have been me that was running. I don't want them to see anything like that to happen to their parents, their fathers, or even me. It could have just been anyone. So I'm also sad. So it's just a time where we have to gather ourselves, recollect, and join together and be positive and try and practice peace.
Got it. Got it. Tony,
So
how
Vanilla
you
has returned. I just want to make it aware.
Vanilla?
Yes.
Okay, you were on radical responsibility. Magali said that's great.
Personal responsibility?
Finishing up radical responsibility.
Yeah, it is. To think about conflicts that are on a societal level, and an organizational level, and governmental levels, is that they are still comprised of individuals. It is each person's responsibility to contribute to the process of change and improvement, and to hold our own officials, own employers, own government leaders, own social leaders, religious leaders, business leaders accountable. And we can do that in several ways, but in order to do that, we have to be clear that we're ready for that. We are ready to take that on as individuals. Am I ready to stand up and use my voice and say what I have to say? Well, this is what's different about this time. This movement here is leaderless. I know we're saying Black Lives Matter, but they're not the leaders of this. The leaders of this are all the people who have been sitting in their homes for 90 days in quarantine and isolation. And quarantine and isolation is what people are saying that we have to do anyway in order to achieve our personal goals in life. And that is be quiet. They talk about yoga and meditation. Being quiet and going inside and hearing that still small voice inside of us, the one that sometimes disturbs us because it's asking us to rise to a level that we're afraid to rise to. Not because we're afraid of racists. We work with racists. Look, Black people know racists better than anybody. because we are the target of that. That's not what that's not what scares us. What scares us is that mighty power inside of us that says, go on out there and say what you have to say, face your fears, and do what you have to do. Now, is that just about this period? No. I would ask people this. Think about how you were 90 days ago in some conflict in your life, in relationship with your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your children, your boss. How did you deal with that? Did you do it with courage, or were you afraid? So until we can acknowledge and own how we deal with conflict, we can call this thing anything out here. But I promise you this time, what's different is that we may not get another chance on this level to make the changes that we have to make. And you, me, everybody on this call, you don't even know who you are yet. See, George didn't know who he was. He did not know that he was going to be a martyr. He didn't know that when he had coronavirus. He didn't know that when he was riding around in that Mercedes. He didn't know until he was on that ground when his life changed. So we don't know. All we have to do is prepare ourselves for the point of readiness. Readiness is a very important concept, and I think it supersedes a lot of things that we're talking about. And some people don't want to be ready. They want to be right. And some people are right, dead right. And that's not serving our society anymore. It's not serving our families, and it's not serving our workplaces. We have some work to do.
And so you talked about clearing, and what is clearing, and how do you help people clear? What's the first place we can begin to clear, to dismantle systemic racism? What's the first place to begin? And what is clearing, first of all? You cleared me the other day when I called you and I said, look, I need to talk. And you helped me clear. And there had been an email that I had not answered. And after clearing, I was able to send an email with such a full heart, and I was able to move on. But what is clearing, and how do we clear? What's the first place that we clear with systemic racism?
Exactly. So clearing is with a show of hands, has anyone ever gone out and cleared out your garage with a show of hands, or your cluttered bedroom, or your cluttered car, or your cluttered closet, or your cluttered file drawer? Anybody?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you've cleared anything in your life. Okay, that's what clearing is in the mind, because we exist here. We exist in our brains. That's where communication comes from. If this thing didn't work, none of this works. Take this out and everything drops down. So our brains have to be clear in order to do the work that we have to do. I am not effective when my workspace is not clear. I don't feel right when my car is junky on the inside. I'm distracted when I walk into my house and those same shoes I threw out there all over the place are still down there and I haven't cleared them out. I don't like going into a junky kitchen. Anybody else? Anybody can relate to this? Because that's what clearing is about. Clearing is getting order in our personal domain, in our personal space, so that we can be effective in what we have to do in our lives for ourselves, that we take out here to the streets, to go to work, to go out here to the grocery stores, to go to the gas station, to go to the bank, to do any kind of commerce, any kind of moving around. Because what people are bringing to the streets is messy sometimes. And it results in anguish and suffering and contention. An unclear mind is what people call the devil's workshop, because it keeps us from being effective. So clearing is, okay, what is it that is keeping me angry with people in my world? What is it that's keeping me sad and upset? What is it that's keeping me? And what you're going to find out and answer those questions is something that has happened that now needs to be cleared up, because it holds us stuck. And it holds us stuck in a place where we don't even want to be. And so the coronavirus period, that whole COVID-19 isolation had us stuck in our houses, having to bear witness to the clutter in our lives, in our physical lives, and into our mental and emotional lives. So people who do violence, especially race-based violence or gender-based violence or age-based violence or whatever you want to call it, are people who are stuck. They don't want to get clear. They just want to be right and demanding. We have some important psychological, emotional work and spiritual work to do in our society. And I think we all know that.
So in this work, this clearing, in Winston-Salem, where I am, I'm in community groups, I'm in work groups. Where do we start? Where does it hold heart? Does it start with our heart?
That was somebody asked that question. I don't know who asked what, but I know certain questions just jump right in my soul, and that was one of them. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't asked like I don't know. It was like, when do we start? Just as and we start at the point of willingness. I know people on this call have heard willingness before. They understand what the word will means, at least the primary definition of it. When we are ready for something to happen, that's when it happens. When we're not ready, it doesn't happen. So when we are willing, ready and willing, these words are not new. Ready, willing, and what's the other one?
Able.
Able. Then things happen. So willingness is an important word. And I want to say this about the word willingness. The will, thy will be done. I mean, that's a powerful expression. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. When that will is ready, that's when the magic happens in our lives and the lives of people we love and in our society. When that's not there, it doesn't. The suffering continues. And people who are not committed to the will being done are not our friends. And they could be people who we love. They could be our leaders. When they're not willing, it's not going to happen either, unless we push the accelerator, which is happening now. We are forcing the will to be done. Oh, I love this time. Because this is a time when will is speaking collectively, because people sit down in their houses meditating in isolation for a long time. Given an opportunity to come out, they're saying it very loudly. Our will be done. So when we are willing to, that's when things happen. So the will, let me say this about the will. I specialize in child and adolescent psychotherapy. That was my training. Why? Because I knew that whatever we had to deal with in life had its origins in the beginning. So feelings, and in the work that the Feeling Friends company does, a feeling company does, feelings and emotions are fixed, are learned, expressed, and are fixed from 0 to 3. Every feeling that we know we have had since we were 3. Technically, there are no new feelings. We talk about them differently, but they're the same old feelings. So the feelings that we have sitting inside of us have been there for a long time. And for any real change to happen, we have to go inside, get clear, get in touch with those feelings so that we come out here powerful and ready to make some change. But without that will, developmentally, will happens by the age of 3. You all heard about the terrible twos. That's like tantrum period. But the will is that little 3-year-old that comes around, and it seems like that child is so stubborn. I remember when I saw my daughter's will, I said, oh no, I got one. Yeah, I have one. And you have one too. And you were probably one also. That's when the child seems like he or she is grown, and we start talking about children like that. Sure is acting grown. Sure is sassy. And she goes, how old is that child? 3? Yes. And that begins to show us how this person is going to be as they grow up. We forget about it because, because they get older and other things happen. But the will is set. And sometimes people want to knock it out of us. Even parents want to knock it out of their children. That's sassy. You can't talk that way to me. You better keep that to yourself. Go to your room. We want to shut it all down. And the first chance we get to take it out and let it be free, that's what we do. And that's what we're saying now. That's what we have to continue to see. We have inside work to do, inside here, in our hearts, in our brains.
Thank you, Vanilla. So is it always race? Because we're getting rid of the race piece. What is common defection? What are the definitions of white supremacy and racism? And how do we decharge from them, from the emotions, be able to use them descriptively?
Will you read that one more time? I want to be sure everybody hears it. I have access to it right here.
What is common defection? What are the definitions of white supremacy and racism? And how do we decharge them from emotions and be able to use them descriptively?
So, okay, great. So I think that person also was saying deflection when they're talking about defection, also. And white supremacy, and what's the other part? Racism.
How do we decharge from them, from the emotion, and be able to use them descriptively?
Right. So white supremacy and racism. Let me just give a very quick history, a historical summary of what that means. White supremacy is relatively new. You didn't see it or hear it in the 1600s to the 1700s, even though you had slavery. You had slavery all over the world, even among people who looked like each other. Slavery was just what it was. It was slavery. You have violence in Western civilization, and particularly in America, around the time that the Africans were free or freeing themselves. So when there was African resistance to the institution of slavery and violence, then people who wanted to maintain their dominance fought to maintain their dominance. So they didn't want to kill off people because they weren't really about that life. They weren't really about that life because everybody had weapons. But the narrative makes it sound as if they were about that life. They weren't all about that life. And they're not about that life now. Because people hide in hoods and come out at night. So white supremacy is a concept, and I refer everybody to there's a book that as soon as my little old brain pulls it up, I will tell you what it is. But racism as a concept, it's not that old. It's relatively new. You don't see racism in dictionaries from the 1700s or the early 1800s because it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. You had cowboys, you had black cops, you had people of all race, both races doing some of the same things. It was not until the laws changed and the domination, the advantage that whites thought that they were going to lose, that's when they started changing laws and changing conversations and changing definitions. The family race, human race, that's how race was discussed. It wasn't discussed as an ism, like a lot of isms are. I call them isms de jour. I talked about now.
Hold on.
To distract people and to deflect people from the reality. The reality is there's a shared power in the globe, on this globe. And you're seeing it with all the resistance and all the support that is happening for this movement now all around the globe. So these are relatively new concepts in the lexicon that people are I want to say forced on us, on all of us, Black, whites, Asians, Hispanics, all of us. It is not reality in the sense that it's been with us forever. It is a mental construct to have people think that it's somebody greater than you. That's called domination. I call it domination. I don't call it anything other than that. I don't call it white supremacy. I don't call it racism. It's an effort to dominate. And over here, not meaning me, but with the individual who you're seeking to dominate, we are constantly looking for ways that you will not dominate us. And it becomes tiring because we have to think about how to not be dominated. But that happens everywhere. And unfortunately, all too often. Now, is racism learned? No. It's not learned, it's observed. Children observe what they live with. They're not sitting there taking notes like in school. They are looking at their parents or the people around them, and they're seeing what people do, and they're repeating what they hear. I repeat what I'm hearing. I repeat what I hear from my parents. My mother took us to hear Dr. King. My mother was one of the leaders, one of the designers of the Poor People's March in D.C. I saw that. She didn't have to take me to school and teach me nothing about that. I lived with it. Just like I learned English. I learned to talk at home. Had I been raised by Spanish people, I would have been speaking Spanish. So in our environments, we have to reframe. And reframing is a powerful tool of transformational training, transformational thinking. We have to reframe what some of these old concepts have been. And do they still have any value? And I say no. White supremacy that has no value whatsoever. It's domination. It's an effort to control people. And we are saying no. Now, some people say, okay, yeah, you can control me because I don't feel like being bothered. I don't feel like paying the rent no how. And then we have a movement for that too. It's called feminism. You're not going to do that to me. So as the isms du jour are being checked off, no, knocked down, resisted, and conquered, we now have the capacity and the opportunity to reimagine and design a new reality. And that's where we're sitting. And it's anxiety provoking to sit in this. It's anxiety provoking to sit in COVID. And it's more anxiety provoking to sit in the possibilities of a new society. Do we really want a new society? Is that what we're doing? Why don't we just pass some police reform and be okay with it? Do we have to really transform? Yeah. Otherwise, we're going to keep getting what we got. And that's not even transformation. That's insanity.
Thank you, Vanilla. So, we see life through our lenses. And my lenses, I see life through my lens. What happens when a person doesn't have an understanding of my lens? And that's for all races. I don't have an understanding of the white lens because I haven't seen life from that lens. You don't have an understanding of my lens. So what happens? What can we really do to start seeing life through each other's lenses?
Again, willingness.
Okay.
Willingness. We have to be willing to. And some people, you know what? I give everybody permission not to be willing. Just own that though. Don't hide behind something else. Well, I don't want to do it because, every time I talk to them, they be spitting on me and everything. No. I don't want to do it because every time I talk to them, they cussing and everything. No. I don't want to do it because of this. No. You don't want to do it because you don't want to do it. Now, you own that part. And I'm going to own this part over here. See, no more excuses. No more hiding. Either we're willing or we're not. And we have permission to say, you know what, I'm not willing. And that will keep down so much confusion. There are probably people on this call now who have some things going on in your office or in your business and in your personal life where you're not willing to deal with some people or some things that are going on. You're not willing. Well, you don't want to tell them because I don't want to hurt their feelings. I'd rather suffer over here than to hurt their feelings over there. And you don't even know if you're going to hurt their feelings or not. So today, where we're standing is in a new possibility. And that possibility is you can say to others, I'm not willing. And then tomorrow you can become willing. You never know. But today you have permission to say, I'm not willing to do that.
And when someone says it, we can accept it.
You can accept it.
Yeah.
And you have permission to accept it. Because they're not willing doesn't mean they don't love you. Somebody asked me to come pick them up at 2 a.m. from the airport. This was years ago at Dulles Airport. This is before Dulles Airport is in Virginia. And
I'm not willing.
I had these rough roads. And they're saying, will you come pick me? No, they didn't even ask me, will you? Can you pick me up? I said, no, I'm not willing to do that. I'm not. You know they had those vans you can catch. 2 o'clock in the morning, I'll be asleep. And it's okay to do that and to say that. But I'll plan small. Playing small in society so that other people won't be threatened by you. That's the old rule. The new rule is use your voice, speak your truth. Playing small is not working anymore. It's not working for anybody. Playing small makes us all underdeveloped. And that's what America's facing. America's facing underdevelopment in all areas of its existence. Because it does not want to give people permission to say what they have to say. Use your voice. Say what you got to say. Somebody's talking about you anyway. She don't say nothing. All she does is, prove some people wrong. Yes, I'm using my voice. I'm going to say what I have to say. Ooh, that's new. And there's some women in relationships who need to speak up. And they know they do, and they're afraid to. Well, I don't know. I'm afraid he might leave me. Well, he might have already mentally left you anyway. So, hey.
Okay, Vanilla.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got a little bit too loud.
Okay, bring it back around. So transformation change. That's the after conversation. You've come to Winston-Salem on 4 separate occasions in the past 2 years for things that I've brought you in on to help with different organizations in the city.
Yes.
And it was interesting. I brought you in for everybody else, but I hadn't brought you in for my team.
Wow.
Until crisis came. You remember that?
I remember that.
Because I think I thought I had it all together. But when we're leading organizations, I had to admit to you, I don't have it all together. I don't. I need you to come in for my team. And we spent a weekend, 17 hours, and you changed lives. So I just want you to go through that piece again. So people understand, what is transformational change? What is it?
So how many people want something to change in your life? Let me see with a show of hands. How many people want something to change in their lives? Okay, so change. Okay, here's the backup question. How many people are not working on that thing that they want to change in their life? Are not working on it yet? With a show of hands. You're not doing anything about it.
All right.
Okay, good, great.
Okay, Nate.
So change is scary to a lot of people.
It
is. Because change sometimes signals or suggests that in order to, like, if I change something, I'm going to lose something. Or it's saying, oh, that's just too much work. I don't want to do all that. Or some kind of adverse feeling about it, some sort of adverse reaction to it. And so change doesn't happen even when we know that something needs to be changed. And when I tell people all the time, you know, working in groups, is that the only person I know who really wants change to happen is a wet baby. That's the only one I know of. Otherwise, the rest of us are struggling a little bit, trying to make change happen. But change is not a big thing. You know, sometimes it seems huge, you know, because we want something there that wasn't there before. And so, can I make this thing happen? So we might have doubt, we might have fear, we might have, you know, a sense of not feeling competent. But see, those don't have to stop us. Those are the areas of opportunity: fear, doubt, and in a sense of just not being competent. Those are opportunities for us to call in resources and other people who can assist in those areas where we're fearful, where we're doubtful, where we need some new skills. See, I don't suggest that anybody takes on a major emotional life change without having someone there who can facilitate that for you, not individuals or organizations or governments. Don't think that, there was a question about ego. Don't think that you have to know it all. Don't think that you have to know that, because if you knew that, then you wouldn't have to be going through any change. So call in people who are skilled in the area, who can assist in the process of change. And change is indeed a process. There is a technology for it. Why? Because change is not fixed in pathology. Let me say that again. Change is not fixed in pathology. In other words, it's not about identifying something that is wrong. And the way that we have these systems of government and medicine and business is based on problem solving. It's based on something having to be wrong. You can't even go to the doctors. Some people don't even want to go to a therapist because they don't want to be judged. They don't want to feel like they're crazy. You know, they don't want to feel like they have some sort of condition. They don't want to be judged. Only they know that they need a professional, somebody skilled in that particular area to help them. But they avoid doing it because of the judgment aspect of it, the pathological focus. And I think our society is moving a little bit away from that. You know, even in medicine, you hear talk about alternative medicine, you hear talking about holistic medicine, things that are done differently so that people can feel more comfortable about changing. You know, even when it comes to diabetes, people are not using, notice this, it's a subtle change. People are not using the term, I'm a diabetic as often, especially on commercials. They're using my patient with diabetes. Why? Because we want you to, you know, we want people to know there is a positive outcome that comes from change. Like it's not something that you have to be stuck in or feel bad about or be judged for. We're not pathological. And part of what's different now in the conversation about young Black men or Black men period, or, you know, racism and, you know, crime and the criminal justice and social justice, is that some of that pathological way of looking at people and talking about them is shifting. We are not going to allow for the overuse anymore of the term drug related. Stop it. Just because you see somebody 18, an African American 18 years old or young, and he's caught into some sort of criminal behavior, you're not going to make it palatable to us by poo-pooing it, saying, oh, it was drug related. No, we're not doing that anymore. We're not going to make everything criminal, and we're not going to make everything pathological. That's with anybody. African Americans, Asians, Hispanics, young whites, anybody. Stop all that. Stop criminalizing and making our conditions pathological. Everybody is in this trauma together. See, that's the common denominator. We're all being traumatized at the same time and in the same way. Everybody. So when you hear people talk about trauma now, Yeah. And they're talking about you are more traumatized. Your life story is more traumatic than hers. Not anymore. Not anymore. There's a rare person who has not lost somebody to COVID-19. Everybody, not just in America, worldwide, pandemic, worldwide is suffering from this same trauma at the same time. And the solutions have to be on that same level of thought, that we're all in this thing. And to hear businesses say that now, I just roll on the floor laughing. Because we have always been, only you didn't get it. And now you're getting it. Your survival is dependent on me coming to you, not the other way around. If I don't get up and come out to you, you will not exist. Isn't that something? That's a shift.
It's a shift.
And that's a shift. That's a shift.
It's a shift. So Vanilla, with that shift right there, with the George, I ask people, and I asked Sarah, I asked people, with all that we've been through the years, what was the shift this time with this visual that made the world stand up?
Now, I want people to, okay, so there's a pattern in the societal movement. Something happened in the 1980s, I think it was the 1980s, with hip hop and rap came on the scene. And somebody said, oh, rap is here to stay. Rap is here to stay. It not only stayed, it consumed the entire planet. It consumed, impacted, proliferated. It took over the world. So that you started seeing young African-American men coming out of ghettos. You see the little fingers here? Mm-hmm. You saw young African-American men with gold all around their neck. You saw young African-American men with women just falling off of balconies. You saw Michael Jackson. He's not a rapper, I know that. You saw Michael Jackson with throngs of people walking down the street behind him. You saw sports legends being made in front of our faces, Muhammad Ali. You saw things happening in such a way that we used to talk about the M&Ms, Michael Jordan. What's the boxer's name? Michael, the other, Mike Tyson, and Michael Jackson. We're talking M3s. They were running and owning the planet. And it didn't stop there, and it hasn't stopped yet. You got Beyonce. She can come on and do a video and have 4 million views. That's what she had this last week. Just make a comment about this particular situation that we're in now. That's one African American who has multiplied all over the world. That has been a movement that is so profound, it has shaken the earth. Now, why is that significant? Because now children who are born onto the planet, not just in America, onto the planet, get to hear that all day and all night. So for them, their heroes and their sheroes are African Americans, all over the planet. Beyonce can go and do a one-night gig, which she actually did, and make $1 million and come on back home the same day. $1 million. I didn't say $1 million for the whole year. In one day. People are watching this. And if you're in a home where you're supposed to have the power because you're what? You have white supremacy? tell you what a contradiction and a farce it is. You don't feel that because you know you don't have it. In your home, you don't have no supremacy. You have poverty. We have poverty in Ohio and West Virginia and all around this country that is painful. And the governments are not taking care of these people. And these are white people I'm talking about. And I've seen it. I've been in parts of Ohio, in parts of West Virginia, in parts of Virginia, where the poverty among the whites is so, I've never seen it. Well, I have seen it because I went to Nashville, Tennessee to go to college. So I did see it. And it's still like that. That's not supremacy. Those are the people who get agitated by looking at what is happening, which is a contradiction to what they are told is true. The same thing. So the extreme views that are not being integrated into reality are now opposing each other with a great deal of angst. And our current administration, unfortunately, is taking advantage of that. So you were talking about the lenses earlier. That's a lens we also have to consider and factor in. That everybody who thinks that there's such a thing as white supremacy, correct them. Say, well, did you feel supreme last week when you were in the office crying because so-and-so said something to you and you didn't like it and you didn't have the white supremacy courage to say anything back? So we have to context these things and frame them in a way that is real and meaningful so that our hearts can start softening up for each other. I don't know. What was your question again? Was that it?
I've forgotten, but I'm at the hearts. My heart's starting up forever. I said George Floyd. he changed. It was something there, and I will tell you what it was for me. I could not watch the video but once. But when I heard him holler out "mama," and I'm a mama, I am an African-American mother, and I heard him holler out "mama" twice. That was it for me. As the breath was leaving, he's hollering for us. That was it for me. And I think that was it for a lot of mothers. That's why you see so many mothers in the streets. Let me just say, I can only speak for myself and that was it for me. And so that changes the world. And so with that, it's almost like it gives the world a chance to recalibrate. We are recalibrating now.
We are.
We're recalibrating. And so it gives us the opportunity to recalibrate. And when we recalibrate, we look at those old systems and we say, it's just not working for me, and why? And this is why. And for me, if you don't hear me, then I move on, because we have to be able now, and you find your own tribe. People talk about finding their own tribe. You find your own tribe. And I think people coming onto this conversation, because this isn't easy in Winston-Salem. I'm gonna tell you right now, this is not easy in Winston-Salem. I grew up here, left for 30 years, came back. This is not easy. No. But I love the opportunity of possibility to recalibrate, even in my own town, and just recalibrate and recalibrate. Yeah, we need recalibration.
And only again, it's not. It's like many changes that we face. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
However, it's starting it is critical. This is a critical start. See, this is not happening everywhere right now. There are a lot of people who are in business together, or who are in a neighborhood together, or in a community together, like you all are there in Winston-Salem. This is not happening all the time everywhere. This is a major beginning. This is huge. And it's something to keep going. And it's something, I would even suggest that in order for us as individuals to benefit from the recalibration, that we take something from this conversation today into our personal lives. Take it home. If you have children, share something with your children. Hear and listen to what they're saying. If you have a partner, have a conversation with that person with the commitment that you're willing to hear what that person is saying just as much as you are willing for that, wanting that person to hear you. And just practice that, because practice makes for progress.
Mm.
And once we can practice what we gain out in the larger society, practice it at home in a meaningful way, then we will see, what's that expression that, it's first in the home, then in the town, then in the city, then in the state, then in the country, then in the nation, then in the world. Once we can begin to shift things around and clear some things up in our personal environments, it will make a difference. It will free us up. It will give us that internal energy and courage and that bravery to do the next thing. Don't, some of us want to take on the big thing first. Oh, let me go ahead and do this and that. And then we wane, and then we fall back tired because we've done too much without being ready. So change is about little small steps first. Little small steps first. Like if you want to, for instance, somebody might want to start a business now, then don't run out here and get a license first. Go out and learn what you can about that industry that you want to be in, and that product that you want to have, and have conversations with people who are already doing things, and get your competency, get that muscle going first, and look around your, space to be sure that you're ready to even manage what it is that you say you want to do. So that will be something that I think, even in this march, even with the marches and the protesting that we're going through, I'm concerned about the next steps. You know what I mean? Where do we go from here?
Well, Mendez, I'm going to turn it over to you. There's some questions that have come up. And Mendez, if you will facilitate that piece right here, I'd appreciate it.
All right, I got you. Thank you all for staying with us, and those who had to leave. We know y'all got some 1 o'clock meetings, and that's fine. I put in the chat that if you all would like to see the recording of this meeting, if you want to go over it, just email me. I put my email in the chat, so if you want that, do that. So our first question that I saw was, don't some people need an extra step beyond will? Some people need to be asked and or urged to get involved. How do we make sure people get to the next level? What are your thoughts on that, Vanilla?
So will is going to be that fuel, and that that you put into your personal energy, that's going to turn you on so that you can even let people know that you're willing. So having that willingness first, yes, and then secondly, use it to let people know that you are now available to be contacted. Because some of us don't even let people know that we want to do something, we want to get involved. I probably won't come and knock on your door and ask you, do you want to talk to me today about your, will? That's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Only once you let me know that you're interested, yes. Now, in saying that, on the other side is this, like even for this event today, if there's an organization that is doing something that wants to get people engaged, then it is up to that organization to start coming up with practical things like a mailing list, doing events like this, many ways of doing what's called outreach, because it is imperative that once you get people going, that you keep them supported. Mm-hmm. So I agree with that comment. And I want to emphasize that it's a two-way street. Mm-hmm. There's some next steps that we have to take once we tap into that willingness part, and that people outside have to be willing to come in and knock on our doors or send something to, through an email. Do what the census does. Put that stuff in the mail to everybody and see who returns it. Outreach is very important. I agree with that.
Got you. Magali wanted to make sure that her question was asked, and she wanted to know your thoughts on rioting being an expressive form of dealing with emotions during this time. What are your thoughts on that?
What is that verb again? Rioting or rioting?
Rioting, yeah.
Rioting?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a riot in a long time since California. During the Rodney King time, I haven't seen any rioting. rioting, that, you know, there's something called the Insurgents Bill. There's a part of the Constitution here in America.
Mm-hmm.
Why does that exist? Because evidently somebody was insurgent. See, you wouldn't have an act like that unless there was some behavior of insurgents. Insurgents is a big old word for resisting. So rioting is how people justify insurgents or redefine it. Nobody rioted. That was insurgents. The Tea Party was not a party. That was insurgents. We're throwing tea off of ships. Well, you what? Throw some tea off of my ship. I'm gonna be a little mad, especially if I don't have insurance. That wasn't a party. We don't call that a riot. It becomes a riot when it happens in certain neighborhoods. We had Maryland University had a big old competition, a game or something about three years ago. They tore it down maybe 5 years ago. They tore it up. Never heard of a riot. Burnt up police cars, all tore down buildings, set fires. Never referred to as a riot. So as we are reframing, as we're moving forward, we want to deep dive assumptions in our lexicon and question them. It was insurgents. I like the word insurgents. It sounds like I'm American. It makes me feel American, because that's what we did.
It was an insurgent. Okay,
insurgent.
So those are all the questions that I've seen in the chat. If anyone else has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. The floor is open now.
And also, can they just make a point that they might want to make, even if it's not a question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
Anybody?
Karen, I just
Hey, Steve.
Hey, how are you? You know, the question about kind of why is this different? Why is the George Floyd thing different? What is catalyzing things now that maybe didn't before? I just kind of want to share my own kind of what's moved me about this. I had just finished watching, you know, the 3-night miniseries on Ulysses S. Grant. And that miniseries ended with him sending federal officers into the South to root out the KKK. And photography had just been, you know, there was actual photography in the Civil War. And so, you know, I saw photographs of lynchings right on the heels, you know, 1867, 153 years ago, by the way. And then I sat and watched a lynching on TV with George Floyd. And I didn't think about that term until Greg Popovich said that. He said, we witnessed a lynching. And, you know, it just moved me, like 153 years. And we're still seeing lynchings in this country. And you asked earlier kind of what we're feeling, and I'm just kind of feeling confused, you know, about my own complicity and ignorance and how much it's contributed to that 153 years and what I can do now. So, but that was a real catalyst for me is witnessing a lynching right in front of my eyes.
That is, that's one of the major differences in what's happening now. Because when Emmett Till was lynched, his mother made sure that we saw his body. And those of you who don't know about Emmett Till, he was that 14-year-old boy who was sent to visit with his family in the South, and he was accused of looking at a white woman. and he was drowned. He was beaten and drowned. And his mother, and when his mom went to get him, she had the photographers take pictures of his body. For that reason, see, that you just talked about, because of the impact, and that changed a lot of things for this country, and it changed a lot of things in the hearts and minds of Black people. Only it didn't shift the fear and the ignorance. And I'm gonna use your word, Steve. I think it's an important word, meaning the lack of knowledge that we have today. This is a very informed civilization that we're living in. And that made all of the difference. It made a lot of difference, and it's making that much more difference now that people do have more access. Will Smith said, it's not that more violence against Black people is happening. It said it's being filmed. And that's happening because of the technological advances of those young people who have benefited from STEM trainings, who have been trained, who have gone to school and become engineers, more blacks and more whites, more females. So I acknowledge you and others who are opening up that wound of complicity to acknowledge it. And this is the thing that has to happen. We have to tell our truth. The truth will set you free. That's what freedom is. Freedom is not being able to drive down the street and not have a cop bother you. I drive down the street, the cops don't bother me. And if they do bother me, so what? What are you gonna do? I'm speeding, they're not gonna stop me for that because we've got traffic lights now. So what am I doing that's gonna get their attention? I don't care about that. I care about it for the domination part of it, but not for just, I'm not gonna be afraid of a police officer. But I am going to be concerned about a society that allows people to continue to use violence and domination. And that's the issue. That's the conversation. Black men are not afraid of white men at all. Not in the least. That's not the issue. The issue is what's going to happen when I defend myself and you have the authority to carry that gun. Now I'm going to give you some insight into something that just happened today. One of the lawyers for one of the police officers who's an accomplice, who's been charged as an accomplice in Minneapolis, is using this defense. I'm gonna have a hard time saying this. It's the most insane thing I've heard. He said, well, if my client is guilty of watching this lynching happen, then what about the people who were standing around watching it? So, Steve, I don't think you have that kind of ignorance. You see what I'm saying? That's relative ignorance. That is something else. And that, unfortunately, permeates the thinking of too many people who have the authority. Any kind of action that anybody takes now to correct some of the ills of this society is warranted. We have to take the actions on any and all levels. Even if it means simply, I am acknowledging my complicity. I'm acknowledging my inaction, or I'm acknowledging turning my head, or something that is so normal. It's called a scotoma. A scotoma in transformational thinking is, it's like a plank in your eye that you don't see what's going on around you. But what's different now is that we have the divine opportunity to shift some things around. It's a divine opportunity. And it's given to us because to whom much is given, much is required. We have been given a lot. all of us, Black, white, otherwise, even the poorest of poor is not as poor as we have been. And we've all been given a lot. Now we have some decisions to make. How are we going to use what is given to us? Our spiritual gifts, our mental gifts, our emotional gifts, our psychological gifts. And that's the shift from what's wrong to what's possible. And it's important for us to keep having that kind of conversation, because you're not going to hear that everywhere. People, societies look, our corporations and industries make money off of things being broken. I used to make money off of people being broken. But come to me and I have to give you a diagnosis. I have to go to the DSM. Some of y'all know what that book is, a diagnostic statistical manual. And find out, let's see, it was the 2, it was the 3, the 4, the 5, I think we got a 6 now, of categories of mental illness that I could pick out a book and put on you, so you can take that and go to your insurance company and have them pay for you not to have that diagnosis anymore, so you can get better. Is that really what we want for ourselves? Is to collude with the government on how pathological we're going to be? That's why we have problems with insurance in America now, in healthcare, because the cost benefits corporations and governments. It doesn't always help us. So with that kind of challenge, some of us don't stand a chance of understanding each other because we're so busy working against systems. And that's what is meant by systemic racism. It's in our system now. Now we got to clear it up.
We are coming close to the time for end. We have 2 more questions. Mendez, will you take those for us?
I'm talking and I'm muted. I'm sorry, y'all. Of course, I got you. Our first question right now is, what do you want to see from primarily white businesses or people in the community to make it clear that they are willing to engage in this work without just putting all the labor on the work on the non-white community?
Will you pose that question again?
What do you want to see from the primarily white businesses or people in the community to make it clear that they are willing to engage in this work without just putting all of the labor or the work on the non-white community?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I'll tell you, you all have the best questions. It is, there's a concept called reciprocity. And at the heart of our society, and when I was talking about effective communication, like a 360-degree process, the businesses really do want a reciprocal relationship, because without that, they're not going to make money. See, if it isn't a quid pro quo, we found out that doesn't work. That can get you in trouble. It is not either or. That doesn't work. And that's a whole nother conversation we have to have about how societies are set up and how we set up our values and everything. So what businesses really want to convey is that they are partners with us. We're in partnership, and their business has a mission statement. So what is your mission? Why are you in business? What is your why? What are you doing? Why are you there? And it's important for businesses to articulate that and become our partners so that we get, oh, okay, so what you're doing is consistent with who I am as a person, with my values. So I'm willing to spend my money with you. So businesses have to articulate that. Let it be known. Don't hide it anymore. This is, see, in the old rule, it was about the bottom line. Well, the bottom line has changed. And it has been changing for a long time because businesses have not been doing well. The airline industry has been suffering even before 9/11, and they're going to suffer even more because they're not doing well. Their mission statements are not clear, and they're not consistent. They're not thinking about nor planning for people to be comfortable. So businesses have to demonstrate not just what they do, but also who they are. Because a corporation is an entity, a living, some person set it up. And if your position and your mission is inconsistent with me and my life and my mission, then I'm going to let everybody know that, other people know that. And we're going to do something that's not consistent with your bottom line. So I think it's in everybody's interest to start sharing and understand that we're a reciprocal group of people.
Thank you for that, Vanilla. So y'all, we got one last question. We're gonna hold y'all here all day. And it says, professionals are limited to funding, resources, and opportunity. How do we address this challenge other than continuously jumping up and down to be seen? Where is our seat as Black people in the boardroom?
Would you read that one more time? That first word.
Professionals are, hold up, the conversation is jumping around. Professionals are limited to funding, resources, and opportunity. How do we address this challenge other than continuously jumping up and down to be seen? Where is our seat as Black people in the boardroom?
Ooh. There's so many moving parts in that. So that first part is that, just read that first part. Professionals are what?
Professionals are limited to funding.
Okay,
resources and opportunity.
So professionals are limited to funding? Are they?
Hold up. I'm seeing more of this question. I'm sorry, Mona, I got you. The words might be different from the Jim Crow era. However, restricting business growth for minorities is still prevalent. Then it goes to professionals are still limited to funding, resources, and opportunity.
Okay, so you're talking about some of the gamesmanship that happens in corporations, not in the non-funding sector as well. It's still that who do you know versus what do you know. I think that's going to be around. And it's not just a race issue. It looks like it is. And in some cases, because it's still part of that model of domination. When I can, when this entity can dominate the flow of cash, who's gonna get the money, who's gonna get the advantage, then that's gonna be there until it's exposed. So those of us, and I've been in nonprofit organizations, and I've had to deal with the major foundations in America, Carnegie, Ford, all of them. I've had to deal with it. I had to sit down at the tables with them. Until we can call it out and bring our people to the table, then we are going to have to keep facing limits. Now, what we might have to give up on our side is being a part of that particular dynamic. You might not want to keep doing business with people who have that kind of mindset. You might have to give up that dream you have of sitting on top of the world with them. You might have to just make your reality changing your community and maybe not being filthy rich off of a contract. Because in scripture, it talks about filthy lucre. Money, money, money. That may not be a strong enough motivation anymore. You can set up a nonprofit organization without having a whole lot of money and still do your life's mission. So again, we all have to see, we all facing some work that is very different. And that's what I'm saying. We cannot do this work on our own because it's very, very different for us, for this society as a whole. There are lots of people doing it though, but it's different for the society as a whole. There's a Black school in New York that put money into that investment firm that was run by that Jewish guy who had that Ponzi scheme going. And he put all of the school's money into that fund. Well, lost all of it. Because sometimes we can be driven by the greed in something, and that is not a racial dynamic, that's a human dynamic. So we want to be as we keep talking, to be able to differentiate what is racial from what is some other dynamic. Because the question earlier on is it all race? No, it's not always about race. It's sometimes just about some human dynamics. You might have to give up
Thank you for
something.
that, Vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the
So, y'all,
last question,
that's
Mendez?
the last question that we got for our time today. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I do have one last question. It's really quick. The people want to know, they want to do this more often? Can we have these conversations? They want Vanilla more often. What you got to say to that, Vanilla?
I am. This is my why. This is my mission, and this is my mission in life. Someone said to me once, I said, Vanilla, you know that if you're not coaching and doing your divine work in life, then you will be depressed and you will be unhappy. And that is the truth. So I do what I do with or without money. And I learned that lesson real young, that if I can walk away from an activity full, joyful, and making a difference, then what's the cost for that? That's divine work, and I want everybody to have that in our lives. So absolutely.
Well, I thank you for that, Vanilla. It's been asked to do a feelings check-in as we leave. If anybody wants to just unmute yourself and tell us how you're feeling after a conversation with Vanilla, I will start it off. I am feeling full because the process started for my town. The process, when I moved back here, I wanted Winston-Salem to become a city of love. And I thought I could do it, but no one, understood what I was trying to say. But just having the conversation today, and I hate that it took a lynching to get us to have the conversation, but the conversation today allows me to know that there's some like-minded people like me here and that are ready to do some work. So I'm feeling full of joy because of that. And so if you want to unmute yourself and tell how you're feeling, feel free.
Hi, I'm Angela Jenkins. I'm feeling hopeful for just everybody here, everybody engaging, giving great feedback and questions. It's time. I mean, it's just time. It's beyond time. And, just from a generational standpoint, I think I made a comment way back. It wasn't a question, but there's a lot of generational, things that are changing. I have a 9-year-old little boy, and to have a conversation with him, about what happened to George Floyd, he had to know. I didn't show him the whole video because he's 9. He'll see it at some point, I'm sure. But anyway, I'm feeling hopeful.
Wow.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. On.
This is Rob Holloway. I just
Hey,
want to say,
Rob.
Vanilla, thank you, and everybody. Hey, Karen. God's worked a miracle just to even insert me into this conversation. I'm so thankful. I would say I'm encouraged because, I've grown up through the time of desegregation, and where I sit over my shoulder, probably about 8-10 miles from me, is Ferguson. And, these conversations in my life have always been peppered in, and I hate that it's taken these events to peel this off in our society. But it's time we started loving one another, caring for one another, and honestly, I want to see others succeed, and it's time that everybody starts thinking that way. So thank you, and I just praise God for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rob.
Yes. Oh.
Karen, I just want to speak up. I want, Vanilla, I want to thank you, and I want to thank Sarah and Karen for putting this together and pushing for this. I have worked closely with them for the past 2.5 years and gotten to know them. And there's obviously room for change and a need for change, and helping me come to terms with myself and where I am is sometimes difficult, but very necessary. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank you for your perspective today.
Wow.
Anyone else?
Hi, this is Katie. I just want to say that I am feeling responsible. Practice makes progress, right? So I am even more encouraged to continue to be a seeker, to understand language, and then also to just really use my privilege and my connections to help lift up other voices that may not be as readily heard, of which I saw last night in attending the public safety meeting with the city of Winston. 3 young people who have been a part of the Winston for Peace organization, they were there, and I saw my friend and colleague Abria Armstrong stand up and say to the chair of our committee, James Taylor, who's also a council member, Mr. Taylor, here are these 3 students who are involved with these organizing and the protests and such, and you need to know them, and I'm connecting you with them so that they can be heard directly by you. And so just
Wow.
that was a super powerful moment. Abria and I are both in our late 20s, and just really seeing what our responsibility is to Gen Z to make those introductions, because that's only going to continue to grow the voice, the groundswell with that energy. So thank you so much, Vanilla and Karen and Sarah, for everything. Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else?
If I may.
Yes.
Hey, it's Nate.
Hey, Nate.
Hey, I believe it was you, Karen, who said that we are at a place of opportunity and possibility, and I agree with that. And I feel that along with that opportunity and possibility comes a great responsibility and obligation. And while I'm ready to do the work, I'm feeling concerned that my efforts to do something positive may not be enough. So while I'm extremely optimistic and hopeful in all of the positive things that other people have identified, I think it's a lot harder to acknowledge that I'm really scared. Really scared that the work that we're all saying that we're going to do, that I believe hopefully will be done, is not going to be enough. And so I would just, I'm worried. And so I would just ask that I'm held accountable to fulfill my responsibility and obligation so that we can get there and to be held accountable for that. And I ask that we all hold that within our hearts. And so thank you for this.
Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Excellent.
Anyone else? Well, I thank everybody for coming today. It's been a great day. I think we all stretched in some other way. Vanilla, when we get together, as always, the magic happens, and it happened today. And as I want to thank you for being who you are. I want to thank you for loving, and I want to thank you from my heart, sister to sister, for helping make change. If there are no other questions, everyone knows how to reach us. We're at the Feeling Friends. Karen at the Feeling Friends. Mendez at the Feeling Friends. Mendez will have this available for you if you send him a note saying that you want it. I am feeling grateful, and to that, love makes me laugh, love makes me smile, love makes me sing and dance for a while. Love brings us peace down in our souls. True love, let's practice that true love, really makes us whole. Signing off to everybody. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Vanilla.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for
God
listening.
bless.
God
God
bless.
bless you all. Be safe.
Be safe.